everybody. Welcome back to Real Moms of Real Estate. We've got quite the topic today. It's a hot one, and it's all about feeding. What do you do when you're on the go? How does it work? And what do you guys think about all this?
For me, I just had a son. Well, he's now one, sad day. But for him, I pumped exclusively for him. And then we made the transition to formula around 8 months, I think, or so for him. So
That's a long time to pump.
I know.
Yeah.
She got to wear the super sexy mobile pumps, all the fun stuff.
Oh, yeah. I had the mobile pumps. I drove in the car with my regular pumps. I mean, it was not glamorous, but it was done. So
I'm having images of Madonna.
Yeah. She's much more glamorous though than what I was dealing with. It was not a pretty sight, but
That's awesome.
he was fed.
That is awesome.
I feel like we need to go around and say, I'm Kate, and I exclusively breastfed.
Are you doing breastfeeding shaming?
It's like an identity, right?
Right.
It really
Or
is.
people make it out to be. But
Yeah.
I fed my child. You know.
Yeah.
Right.
They are still with us.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
I think as a group, we have a pretty good mixture of pump, breastfeeding issues, breastfeeding journeys, all of the good stuff. But I mean, either way, like you just mentioned, we fed our kids, so it got done.
Yeah, that's probably something to talk about, is just what helped or caused you to decide how you were going to go. Was it situational? Was it all the chatter? Because I feel like that was one of the things when I was pregnant and I was preparing for my first. It was okay, this is something I haven't even thought about, but everyone has an opinion on it.
Yeah.
And a strong opinion.
Yeah.
Be very
Unwavering.
strong.
Unwavering.
Yes.
That's such an interesting thing, actually, to have an opinion
Other
on.
people
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
I even think that you
Yeah.
should weigh in.
I will.
Yeah.
And win and be right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think older generations, it was different than it is now. There's a huge push for breastfeeding, but it used to be formula feeding. So our moms and grandmas have very different, views on, the way things were done when they had their babies. So
Did your moms weigh in on all that?
My mom didn't weigh in exactly, but she was like, "Oh, you're gonna pump feed? Why not formula?" Because we were both formula. So I mean, she was
And
just
you're
more
just fine.
yeah, and she was just more curious of well, why that than this? And honestly, I just chose pumping because at the time when I had Mac, it was formula shortage was a real thing. My friends were buying black market formula, off of friends from friends of a Facebook. It was hard for them to feed their kids. So I was I can't, I'm already stressed about bringing this new human thing home and I have no idea what I'm doing. And I guess I have the food with me, I guess. So that's what I did just because the formula shortage was too scary to digest.
It's as if everyone having an opinion on what you're doing wasn't enough. They're also going to throw the anxiety of physically maybe not being able to get the food to feed your kid. And it just makes the whole decision impossible, honestly.
That's really stressful.
it was. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Like,
I
you go
can
to the-
remember crying and just being in Walmart and being I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And
The
everyone-
shelves are empty.
Nothing.
Yeah, and if you're exclusively formula feeding, then you can't just flip flop.
Go back
It's
to
gone. You're
breastfeeding.
dried up. You're you don't have anything.
Yeah, you can't retap the keg. It's,
Yeah.
it's tapped. Yeah,
is over.
Yes.
Yeah.
My keg is broken. She's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Kylie, you just formula fed, correct?
So I breastfed for the first 4 months. I tried really hard between breastfeeding and pumping. And my issue was mostly that my daughter could not keep anything down. She was just from the start a really colicky and just her tummy just wasn't unhappy all the time. So it was a really hard decision. And I remember actually sitting with my mom and her just saying you're going to be okay. And I know you don't want to, but this is probably what's best. This is what the pediatrician is saying. She's not gaining the weight she needs to gain. And I just cried giving her her first formula bottle, just sat on the couch crying. And looking back, I'm like, and then she had it for the next 8 months of her life.
Yeah. And she's very happy and fed and
just fine.
growing. And yeah.
It is really interesting. Like, where does that pressure come from? Because, like we said, like generational differences. My mom breastfed the four of us, but that was very uncommon at the time. Like, she remembers people like shooting looks like, "Are you poor?" You know, like why are you doing it this way? And so, obviously, like the times change. Now you hear a lot of people saying breast is best, but like, where does that come from? If one generation ago it was so different, like, is that coming from social media, from like hyper exposure to like what being the best mom is? Like,
Yeah.
where is that pressure coming from?
Yeah, I don't know, but it's definitely, I think social media does have a huge like pull in it because now everybody has the option to voice and share their opinion with everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I felt the pressure to even pump just like straight from the hospital, like just gave birth to him. And then they were like, well, yeah, are you going to breastfeed, pump? Like and then I told them I was going to pump and I got shamed because I didn't actually want to physically breastfeed. So I'm like, it doesn't make, you can't win either way. So
I mean, they were trying to get me to give her formula right in the hospital. And I was like, I'm not ready to just like go to
Give
that.
up on
Oh,
that.
that's interesting.
So
Yeah.
I think that's another issue all on its own is how not only the social media, but afterwards, the opinion of whoever is like your nurse, like they're going to push that on you as well, whatever they're cool with or whatever they think.
Yeah.
I felt like they were really pushing breastfeeding like in the hospital. Like it was, it was just assumed that that's what you're going to do. And even like throughout the pregnancy, it was just like this assumption that like, that's what you're going to do. That's what people do now,
Like they bring in the lactation consultants.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I was not prepared for how hard that was actually going to be. Like there was no preparation for,
It's almost worse if the expectation is, oh, this is just what you do. And you're like, but it's not working. You
right.
know,
And
like
it's
if someone
really,
would say it'd be
really
hard.
and it's really physically demanding,
Right.
So I was similar to Kylie. I probably breastfed, not even that long with Jackson, and I felt relief. For me personally, I was like this,
When you changed over.
yeah. when I
Once
changed.
the
It was
initial
like this-
shock sets in, you're
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, they're sleeping better. She's fine. Like, we're good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think for me, it was like that hyper fixating, like I can't quote fail at this. Like I'm giving up at this. And it makes no sense. Cause looking back, I'm like, there was no failure. You were strapped to that thing for, like 9 hours a day, something silly. And like when he switched to formula, nothing changed. And it was like,
Except for probably your peace of mind.
except for like I wasn't, so upset all the time or like being lonely and stuck to the pump. And it was a huge sigh of relief for me too, just because I'm like, oh, okay, the world still is revolving. He's still drinking his bottle.
And you have more time back,
Yes.
Yeah.
And now I'm not having to cart along my tote with me everywhere.
Yeah, this is really interesting because I had such a different experience. So I think when I found out I was pregnant, I wanted to be really intentional about making those choices. Like I was maybe like second wave of friends getting pregnant. Like I had a lot of friends get pregnant out of college. And so I kind of knew the things that they wish they had done. And a lot of people said, I didn't know what I was doing. It's kind of like what we're talking about. Like you don't know until you're in it and then you feel overwhelmed. And so I actually feel lucky to have like had the forward thinking to make a plan and really think about it and talk to people about what was hard. Breastfeeding was a huge one that came up. Like if that's the way you're going to go, it's going to be an adjustment. I got a lot of like, don't give up, just like keep working at it and like it'll click. And that was my experience. So when Wade was born, like straight to my chest, like, let him kind of do the thing where they figure it out and bounce around and find their way there. But he wasn't latching well for probably the first like 48 hours, like would just get a little bit. I was pumping a little bit. And it took, a couple of weeks to really establish that, but just kept trying. And eventually he got it. And from that time forward, it was such an easy thing for me to feed him myself. Like all the things that that we're talking about, like, it was just on me, like it was on me. The baby was usually with me. So I found that it was really easy, a lot easier to breastfeed, except for the schedule that I was not expecting at all, which is pretty much constant. Like, I literally remember my husband just feeling completely helpless, like handing me a baby. I don't even know how he's hungry again. Like, you have to take this baby back. And I just like felt like a food truck. Like, it was absolutely constant.
Like you're passed out on the bed and your husband's like trying to put the baby on you.
Yes,
So that way you're
exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, no matter if you're sick or tired or whatever, like, you're the one that has to do that part. So those first couple of months, I think, are probably the most challenging, especially with your first baby, because you are learning so much about them, about how to be a mom and a parent, and then you're like, you literally have something attached to you almost all the time. It's crazy.
I go back and forth with, like, if I were to have another one, if I'm going to try again or just go straight to formula, because part of me, like, I wanted to and I tried so hard, but like, come to find out now, a year later, that G does have a really bad like lip tie and stuff. I'm like, I would love that to be my experience, but I'm also like, is it worth the trial and error of the mental breakdowns?
I think you
Everything's
could be less
worth
hard
it
on
for them, of course, but second time might be easier because you at least know.
Or some of those maybe like initial, like very scary motherhood things that like as a first time mom you look at, and then now, at least for me looking at like a second one coming, I'm like, oh, I'm not nearly going to be as worried about that as I was the first. Like those first time worries are like justifiable. I
Yes.
get why they're there, but then like there is some type of ease to the second, a little. So hopefully, I mean, do whatever you feel like is
I'm
best
still
for you.
nursing my second now, and he's 9 months. So it's like the second time was a breeze.
breeze, yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's just the initial like learning process, because after he got it down and after I got it down with my first, like, it really is such an amazing like bonding thing. I feel like it was kind of a good like mental transition for me. They're in your body for 9 months, and then all of a sudden they're on the outside and you're not quite ready to share them with everyone. It's like, it's part of the transition for me, to still have that time, and feel like somehow they're still, like, I'm still feeding them from my body. Like, I don't know. It's kind of like a special thing that only I can do.
Right.
And I really enjoy that part of it.
I mean,
No,
it's
I
very
love
cool.
that.
It is very cool what like the female body can do.
Yeah.
I mean, I commend you for keeping it going.
Yeah, well,
So.
and it doesn't stop at childbirth, right? That's kind of what I always thought. But it's like your body can like read when they're sick, and the milk changes to accommodate that, and like to give them the right antibodies and nutrients. Like, I just think it's so fascinating.
Yeah.
So I think, I did a lot of research. It was a choice that we made, and it worked for us. But I also hate to see the stress around like
Right.
trying to make that work. I think it's really sad if that's something that you want and it doesn't work out, but it doesn't have to be the only thing, and it shouldn't be presented that way, as like a shame game.
Right.
When you were like going to do breastfeeding and you said you talked to friends and stuff before that, were your friends honest with you about breastfeeding in the trials?
Pretty honest, yeah, I think so. But it's the same with everything else with motherhood. Like, something that's really hard, like the next memory or stage replaces,
That
what I mean?
one, yeah.
So like, I think if you can get past the hard stretch in the beginning, and it works for you, and you can do, like, I breastfed for 14 months with my first.
Wow.
And so like, by the end of it, I remember like he started kind of like losing interest, and he was eating a ton of food. And I remember telling my husband, like, I think we're done. Like, I think we're almost done. And there was something like really cool about that and something sad about it,
Yeah.
So, I think people were honest, but I think it's just your own experience.
Yeah.
And everyone's different. Some people were like 3 months, and that was great. Some people I know have breastfed for 2 years, and I think like, oh my God, like, how could I have even gone any longer than I did? So
I was just curious because I feel like sometimes when I approach like different subjects with different friends, I get different answers.
Oh, yeah.
Which is fine. And I like that because everybody has like a very different parenting style or like how they've raised their kids. All kids are, healthy, happy. That's great. But I think like when broaching to my friends now that are having kids and either deciding to be like breastfeeding, pumping, formula, I try to be like as brutally honest as possible because I feel like I I knew it was going to be hard. Like you said, Kate, like I knew it was going to be hard. I knew it was going to be a lot of hours, but I had no idea the weight of doing that.
Like the pressure.
Yes. Like, I mean, you just have you have no idea that, yes, even if the baby is being a bottle fed, you need to pump. Or, they're up every 3 hours. And even if the baby's sleeping and your husband's feeding them the bottle, you still have to get up to pump. Or, maybe I didn't produce as much today. Because pumping, it's nice is that you can see how much they're getting. But then you can also physically see how much you're pumping. So then you're like, oh, I didn't pump as much today. Like, did I eat? And then I'm stressing out over that. Like, I wish friends would have been more brutally honest with their stories. Like, I don't mind all the hairy details. Like, tell them to me because I want to know them. I want to know all about mastitis, clogged ducts. Like, I had the gamut. So I wish people would have been a little bit more like, it's really hard.
Yeah.
I say it all the time, like, I wish I would have known.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, we told you. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No.
And it might just be like when you're like in it, you don't really know until you know, which is really frustrating. But I wish somebody would have been like, it's okay to to give them formula. Like, you're not a failure. It's okay. Like, there's no social norms that have to change. Like, it's all good. For me, it was just like, no, they didn't quit, so I'm not going to. But it's, got ice packs on your boobs like 6 hours a day. You're like, I need to quit.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I think we were the first in our friend group to have kids. So, and obviously our moms has had kids many, many years ago. So I didn't know. I had no idea
You're
what
the guinea
happened.
pig.
Yeah. The guinea, and I had no idea, when your milk comes in, it's really painful. Like,
Dolly
God.
someone told me to
you-
stand under a hot shower and no, that's actually the opposite of and by the third I had figured that out. But it was the first time was it was brutal.
Yeah.
And
It's so funny. Your milk coming in. I forgot about that.
Oh.
That part.
that
Is
alone is crazy. And
Just wake up one morning like, oh, wow, I have milk literally everywhere and double D's. This is great.
Yeah.
I think.
That's probably one difference. I would say breastfeeding is easier in some ways because you have the baby just they eat and then you're done. You're not cleaning parts. You're not resetting that whole process. But if you're away from your child and you don't have a pump or you didn't bring a pump, there were times where I literally thought my boobs were going to explode.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And in real estate, our schedules are so variable. It's hard when you have to plan to pump or, be with your baby.
There's always a last minute showing that you have
Yeah.
to run out to.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Let me grab my haka.
I always had the haka with me, and I'd be peeling it off me as I was getting out of the car. 1 second, guys, I'll meet you in a minute.
I would park around the block and detach myself.
Make sure you don't
cover
have any,
myself up.
nipple ringlets of milk on your shirt.
Yeah. It's not glamorous.
I cannot tell you how many times I've been driving down Madison Road with my hand pump just on the fly, and I look over, there's a construction worker, and it's just but I don't care, really. It's what you have to do.
No
so
shame.
You just do it.
The funniest is when you can tell something's off in a conversation. You're like, what? And then you get in the car and you're like, oh, okay.
Yep.
I've been leaking everywhere.
I leaked. Okay. I see what happened there.
That's funny. So what did you guys do to kind of accommodate your work schedules? What kind of planning went into that so that everyone's getting fed and no one's getting rained on inadvertently?
You just mentioned the haka. That was huge for us. It's like a silicone suction kind of contraption that you can put on the other side when you're feeding on one side to catch, or just, I guess, on both sides. Did you have two? If you're
Yeah, if you
would
were
have
out
two,
and
yeah.
They're just easy to throw into a bag.
right, yeah, and it catches excess, or it just can relieve the pressure just even a little bit, so that you can kind of buy yourself some time.
Yeah, 15 minutes. Yeah, something.
But I would always use that on one side when I'd feed on the other, and so I'd catch an extra 2 or 3 ounces, and that'd be a bottle or half a feeding. So combine a few of those, and there's a bottle for Dad while you're on showings. So that was really helpful.
Well, that makes sense. Do your clients ever have questions about, they ever weigh in on your your feeding choices? Were they ever invasive on that?
I don't really remember any of my clients like being like opinionated about it. I think they may have like asked, but I don't think that their response was like, that's bad. You know, I mean, I don't think that they ever had like a very strong opinion about it.
Yeah, not clients. I mean, I'm pretty shameless with like feeding. I will feed my child at Mad Tree. You know what I mean? Like if I'm going to breastfeed my baby, then I'll just throw something over my shoulder, and you get looks for sure sometimes. But I've never been like
Shamed.
Yeah, I've never really let that bother me.
No. Like I said, there's really nothing glamorous about it anyways. Like there's nothing.
I wasn't feeding at showings. I wasn't like, walking around with like a baby on the boob at
Yeah.
showings.
This is the kitchen. Yeah. That's the fridge. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Since I bring Gianna to, like, since I've taken her on a lot of showings with me when she was really little, I'd have clients just be like, if you like need to step away or go in the car or anything, you're welcome to. And I'm like, thank you, I will. But no one was ever like, it was always very supportive and sweet. But I was just like, okay, guys, thank you.
Yeah.
That's funny. And then how did you transition them like to their next phase? Like what was that like? Was that a hard thing to do with a work schedule, or did that just kind of come on its own?
For us, it came kind of naturally. So like I said, I pumped exclusively. I was very like fortunate to be, or unfortunate, depending on how you look at it, an overproducer. So what I did is we would.
Good job, Elsie.
I know. Gosh, I was like, how? And so what we would do, or I would do, is I'd pump and I would pour all my milk for that day into a pitcher. It's called the pitcher method. So all my milk throughout the day was chilled in this pitcher, and then I would make my bottles for the next day out of yesterday's like fully mixed milk. And then so when we started to transition him from straight breast milk to formula, I just slowly incorporated formula into the breast milk just to kind of ease his stomach for, any concern. Of course, he was, 100% fine. He didn't need the ease, but I was like, first time I'm scared. It's going to hurt his stomach. No, he's fine. And then now that we're just on formula, we just have been like, he's eating real food now. And it's honestly been a lot easier now that he's eating real food.
That's the golden ticket, when they get to snacks instead of bottles for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like once you make it there, you're like, yeah, I made it. We did it.
We did it.
We did it.
Worst case, I can drive through and I can get you some like little fries to just rip up, and then you can just eat those for the next 5 minutes, and then we'll get you something better. But it's a lot easier to grab food versus formula.
Yeah.
That's all good.
Yeah, I think we had a very similar experience. And with the Haka, I think helped so much. I was able to store so much. So when we did transition, and part of that too is like having more consistent childcare, and then being able to, having that ready for them. But the Haka helped a ton with that. Be able to, freeze a lot of it, and then just like an easy transition, mixing, the formula, and they didn't need it.
Yeah.
Kind of like, they're fine.
Like it's more mental. Like I can't do this to them, and it's like, yes, he was fine.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you find it was hard, Kate, for you to leave your sons, like when you were breastfeeding? Like, did you always have like an extra stash, or were you more like, I know this is
Flask.
Oh yeah. Some of these women online have like freezers, plural, full of frozen breast milk, and you're like, what are you doing? Regardless,
really-
but like, did you
it's
think
funny.
it was like stressful to leave them?
For sure at first. I felt like I definitely was like more tethered in my first go round. And so the next time I was way more intentional about starting to pump sooner, making sure I had frozen milk and milk in the fridge so that I could step away more. And also just incorporating bottles into our schedule. Like it used to be that if I was there, I would just feed him. But on the second baby, we started doing like a first wake up, my husband would feed a bottle, and then I would take it from like, the middle of the night until 5 a.m. or whatever. And then he would get up with him and give me like a solid stretch of sleep. So like we were really a lot more intentional about our schedule, and it allowed me to have a lot more sanity, get more sleep, and for him to feel like he was doing more. Because the first time, it just felt like I was doing everything because I was, and I didn't know any better. But there are ways to incorporate the pump and freeze milk and incorporate bottles and still be exclusively breastfed. So that's what we've done this time, and it's been a lot easier to step away knowing that I have that like stash.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
The gold.
That's pretty funny.
Yep.
That's funny. Do any of you guys, or did you feed on like a schedule, like that baby philosophy of feed them then, let them cry? Did anybody go through that process at all?
We did like with sleep training a little bit of like trying to stretch the sleep, like not going in right away. And that's the thing with breastfeeding too, is like if I pick him up, he's trying to eat right away. There's like this association. So like a lot of times it's like I'm sending my husband in because, that's not an option. But yeah, I mean, I think the schedule is important. Otherwise, it's just every time they cry, they're getting a bottle or eating. That's just not feasible.
I think that's where I maybe messed up.
That's funny.
So what did you do?
Literally, whenever she like wanted or like hinted that she was hungry, I would just let her latch. And then I got to the point where she was like just like sometimes she would literally fall asleep, like not even latched anymore, just like suckling. And I'd be like, okay. And I'd slowly like slip away. As soon as I like would slip my shirt back over, instant open eyes looking at me like I lied to her and betrayed her. Like, back to latching. It was a lot. She still honestly is kind of spoiled, which is probably why we had sleep problems for so long, because I think she did know like if she started crying in the middle of the night, one of us would come in with a bottle to like get her back to sleep and all of that fun stuff. The things you learn.
Yeah.
And that's like a whole another podcast, like first pregnancies to second or first baby to second, just so different.
Yeah, like with our first, we were very like every 2 to 3 hours, like wake him up, and by the third, we were like, we'll let him sleep. He is just fine.
Okay.
He's a big boy. Yeah, very different. Yeah.
That sounds like nice though. We followed a program that I'm sure like a lot of moms have heard of, like called Taking Care of Babies, and we just kind of followed their daily schedule, but they pretty much emphasize like wake windows, and so they basically eat, play, sleep on like a rotation. And
Those windows just get longer.
And the wake windows, just get longer. Like Cody, my husband was like, he's always sleeping. And I'm like, he's 2 weeks old. I'm like, wait, he's not going to be out playing baseball. But like, those wake windows, like they just start, getting long, like slowly getting stretched out. But we followed that and it worked for us. But it helped me mentally just to have like a game plan for the day, so I didn't feel so chaotic, because I already felt pretty chaotic.
Yeah, I think no matter what, it's a little chaotic.
Oh, yeah.
But having a game plan would probably be helpful.
Well, like you said, they're all live. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've all made it.
fun.
Woohoo.
Good.
How are your boobs?
Oh,
That's like
my
such a
hacky sacks, what I have left of them.
that is something
You earned them, though,
Like they were already little, but at least they were cute. And now they're just like non-existent. And also look at the floor. I don't know how the combination's possible, but Here we
think
are.
that's like the most common thread across all like feeding approaches. It's just the first one, maybe not so much, but like subsequent babies, like they just never come back, do they?
Oh.
Nope.
What a sacrifice.
They wreak havoc. Yeah, they wreak havoc for sure. That's funny.
Has anybody tried their breast milk?
No.
I never did. No.
I made my husband try mine.
I want it.
But you never tried it?
No, I don't really like milk. I'm not like a milk girl myself, so.
I had to try it because I was like, what is all the fuss about? And I was like, I've got to give it a... So I tried my own, and it tastes like cereal milk.
Kind
Yeah.
of
It's kind of the best way I describe
Yeah.
I'm like, I was really proud of myself. I was like, wow, this is actually pretty good. Yeah, I don't blame him. I don't blame him
now
for
I know why
liking
they
it.
want it all the time. Yeah.
There's like a black market for breast milk.
There
Yeah, I've
really
heard.
is. Formula,
That's
breast
amazing.
milk, everything.
Yeah, like bodybuilders and stuff are drinking breast milk, and people claim that it's like really good for your skin, and
Shut up.
Hormones. Yeah, people
Yeah,
like
it has
drink.
some type of like hormone in it that the bodybuilders like.
Like I
it's more
guarantee
pure
if you go
form,
on
I guess.
Craigslist and type in
Really?
breast milk, you'll find.
Who knew?
Is that legal to sell?
I mean, yeah, I think you can sell your breast milk, right?
I know you can.
I've
give
thought
it
about
away.
it.
Like to
been
the,
tempted.
the donor banks or
Yeah.
yeah.
Huh.
But I think to even donate breast milk, unfortunately, to the donor banks, you have to have such a specific criteria of like what you eat.
I feel like it's
really?
just so much
know that.
responsibility to like. I don't know. That would make me certain. Okay, so then let's also talk. Do you guys drink while you're breastfeeding, or are we not drinker girls?
Yes.
I drink. We work in real estate. I think we all drink a little bit.
Yeah. I was going to say, that's
fair.
another like first to second. My first pregnancy, I didn't drink at all, maybe like a glass of wine, like at a wedding or something. But my second pregnancy, it was like a glass of wine a week. And my doctor was like, that's going to be better for everyone, for your mental health, for, you know, than you trying to stretch 9 months and then going into a toddler and a newborn scenario without wine. So drink wine.
Without coping.
right.
I feel like we deserve it at that point. Like you've made it. You've taken everything else. At least don't take our alcohol from us.
No.
Yeah.
That's funny. My mother told me that her mom, my grandmother, would say to her, "Oh, Christy, you just need to have a beer. It'll be fine.
Amen.
You just need a beer."
Honestly, I haven't breastfed in forever, and when I drink like large amounts of beer, I'll still leak out of one boob.
Oh, wow.
Only
Very
one.
Funny.
Oh yeah, there's something in like the yeast of like a specific beer that should help breastfeeding production.
Well, it must work because
That is hilarious.
Yeah. Were you guys particular about what you ate while you were breastfeeding? Like, were you?
Everything.
I ate
am
everything.
ravenous.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
second I start nursing, I'm like chugging water, and it makes me really hungry. I get really grumpy if I don't have like that. Would probably be like one of the biggest pieces of advice I would give someone who's planning on breastfeeding, or I think in general, like if you're pumping any of that stuff, have like a huge basket of snacks in the nursery or somewhere close by because I eat everything in sight.
I was that way with drinking. Like as soon as I like latched that pump and pressed start, like my mouth was like immediately the Sahara Desert, and you could not consume enough liquid. And then like you would eat, and you're like, I'm not just like hungry. I'm starving.
yeah.
And I would eat like 3 entrees at dinner, and Cody would be like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, "I'm so hungry."
But if you're asking about quality, same thing. I would say first pregnancy and first baby, I was like way more intentional about my diet, and then the second one, I'm like, we're all fine here.
Yeah.
Eat the cheeseburger, whatever.
Everyone's going to make it.
Yeah.
I had to like do a crazy diet stuff because I was trying everything to continue breastfeeding, and she was having tummy issues with
So you were like
like
eliminating.
Do you like
Oh,
cut
yeah.
dairy and all of that good stuff?
I tried everything, and then I literally was just more miserable. I think
Poor
the whole
thing.
thing was
I
just
know.
not a good experience. And then once we switched back to formula or over to formula, I was like, oh yeah, give me the cheese, give me everything. I don't care. But I did limit my diet, but only because I was trying to see if it affected her breast milk.
I don't think I eliminated anything.
Well, if there was no
Eat,
problems,
I didn't.
then
Not
I would-
good. But like at least for me, like mentally, that pitcher method was super helpful because like if his belly was upset, like if I ate onions or something, he wasn't getting like my entire onion ring meal.
Yeah.
He was getting like just a bite of a ring in like the total grand scheme of things. So the same thing with alcohol. Like I bought the test strips that you can dip into your milk to see if it's.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you can buy these like test strips to see if like there's alcohol in your milk. You know, to each their own. But then like mine, if I drank or something the night before, it would just go into the big batch of milk. So, and I tested it and it never even showed up. So I know some people do test their milk a lot, but I think what they
Just
said, like if
dilute
you can
milk.
find your baby, you can feed your baby.
My doctor literally said, if you can find your baby, you can feed your baby. And I was like, oh, okay.
I think of one time where I was
Say
like,
less.
I am not going to feed him.
Yeah.
It's probably not
I
the
mean,
best idea.
Yeah.
We talk like it's something, but honestly, when I was still breastfeeding, when she was only 4 months old, I was so tired all the time. I couldn't have found the time to want to drink anyway. But if I would do it for months and months, I'd run into that.
Yeah. I'm like a 2 glasses of wine after the babies go to bed
Yep.
person.
Oh, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a nice night routine, to be honest. Yeah.
Right. Watch like some trash TV and not look at real estate for at least an hour.
Stay off MLS.
Right.
Stay off MLS. Facebook
Thinking
groups.
that maybe some of the looks I get at MadTree when I'm breastfeeding my child are because I'm
While
also
you drink
drinking
a
like an
beer.
IPA.
Well, you're thirsty. You need to.
Multitasking.
You're thirsty.
I love it. I would be like, can we get this girl another one over here?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Did you like ever spill your milk and have like a devastating moment about it?
Oh, big time. Or he's spilled my milk. Like
That's
it's
worse.
one thing if
It's
I
worse.
spill the milk, but if your husband spills the milk or your partner spills the milk,
no.
that's like grounds for.
You are dead to me.
We're not talking. Yeah. Even if
You're
it's
already
funny.
bitter enough that they can't help. Like,
There was actually like a stage early on where we had like a not an argument, but like a kind of confrontation about like you cannot hoard the milk. If you're going to step away, you're going to go to showings or whatever. Don't tell me I can't access them, because I would be like, you just take a bottle out and you feed them half of it, and then the rest goes to waste. And it's not as like you're not producing this with your body, so like. It's not offending you, but it's offending me. Right. Right? So we had to have a talk about that. It's like, find our happy medium.
Well, I mean, I feel like breastfeeding is such a journey for us, but we also, like, our poor partners, I mean, they're trying their hardest. They literally can't do anything. They feel helpless, and they're just like, I am trying to be supportive here, but I don't even know what I can do.
Also, you're crazy.
Right. Also, do you need another snack because you're terrifying right now?
yeah. I was really resentful, especially with the first one. I was like so mad when he I think he's hungry. Like, that was his way of like helping to be like,
I think you need to feed your baby
I think you
now.
need to feed him now. And I'm like,
I just did.
I'm crying. And I'm like mad at you because
I would be the one that's like in the middle
did
of
this
the
to
night,
me.
fully latched, like looking over at him while he's sleeping, just like plotting how I'm gonna like
you look so
roundhouse
peaceful over there.
him to wake him up.
Yes.
Like,
And
drop
isn't
a
it
bow
like
on
the
him.
windows are like from the time they start feeding, not when they end? So it's like every 3 hours, but it's from like the start. So
Yes.
like it's almost like as soon as you fall asleep,
They're ready.
after the cleaning the pump, like reset, you go back to bed, and then it's like right there again.
Yeah, it would be
It's like
like
an hour and a half.
3, 6, 9, 12, 3, 6, 9, 12. I would get up, you pump for 25 to 30 minutes, and then you have to like either clean your pumps or I put mine like in a Ziploc bag and put them in the fridge.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, you do your research if you have questions about it. Some people have very strong opinions about it. But my baby's
Very controversial.
and then you finally would go back to sleep and you'd get like 45 minutes and you're like back. So you're just, and then meanwhile they're, they don't hear the baby cry as much as you do or any squeaks or squawks, and they're just over there sound and sleeping.
Yeah,
You do get a little sassy.
Yes.
yeah. Said some choice words once or twice, but took it like a champ, honestly.
I do remember one time I was in Mason and I had just had Amelia and she was being breastfed at the time, so I don't know which hormone was kicking in. But this family, we had occupancy at closing and they said they weren't going to move. And I had these people moving in with a relocation deal, and I went to this guy. I don't know what got into me. I do not advise this. I drove up to this guy's house and I got up and I knock on the door and I'm like, you have to move on time. He was so taken aback by me that he's like, okay. And just walked back and shut the door. And I, cried and got back in my car and I'm driving like, what the hell just happened? Like, what is wrong? I mean, it was the weird. I was in tears.
Like hysterics.
In hysterics. And why did I go knock on their door?
What a good tactic.
What was wrong with me?
So did he move?
Oh, yeah, they moved. Oh. But yeah, because they thought the psycho realtor was good. And I mean,
Did you
who knew?
at least have the baby with you, or
I
were you
did
just
not.
like a crazy?
No, I was
you were
just
just a crazy.
I was just a crazy woman, and they weren't my client, so they had no idea that, you know what I mean? Like,
Just had a baby.
Yeah. So here comes this nut job knocking on their door going, you will move. that close because you're going to get it. I mean, that was awful.
I've
had a few things that scared me. That was one of them.
Talk about customer service, though, for your clients. I mean,
know,
really going the
right?
extra mile.
I did not share that. Did not share. That was not one of my better
I
moments.
must have had a change of heart.
Yeah.
Right. yeah.
I will still remember him like backing up, shutting the door.
You're like, I really
like,
put my foot down over there, guys.
like, I think it's going to be okay. But it was crazy. I remember driving out of that neighborhood going, what is wrong with me? Yeah.
The hormones are wild.
They
It
are.
was not my best memory.
I would just like cry, and then he'd be like, what's wrong? Like, what can I help with? And I'm like, I don't know what's wrong. Like, and you're just, I mean, like bawling. Like you just saw your dog get hit by a car, like bawling. And then like 3 minutes later, you're like, okay, are we going to go get dinner? And it's totally back to normal.
Who are you?
Yeah. Psycho.
I would say I could chalk up a few real estate moments to hormones. Like just like the way I responded to an email and I'm like, shit, unsend.
Yeah, that is a type step away.
Yes.
Let that one marinate in the
Let it
draft
sit.
box for a
Yeah.
second.
Eat a
That
snack.
Draft
would be
is a
good
beautiful
advice
thing.
To, yeah, new moms in real estate.
Yeah, or like-
type out the email, step away, see how you feel.
Like the 10-minute
Yeah.
rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you get the snippy co-op and you just want to really do something mean to them. Yeah.
I had to apologize to an agent on a deal when I had first had my daughter. I don't know if I'm allowed to say Doug's name, but she literally was like, I'm going to call your manager. And I just literally sent Doug's name and number. And I was like,
Knock
don't
yourself out.
care. Like, I don't care, please, at this point. And he was like, you have to appreciate her position. I think you should apologize. And I was like,
Fine.
okay.
That sounds exactly the way Doug would say it. That's funny.
Yeah.
You know,
Literally.
you gotta appreciate her position. I can just hear him.
Yeah, that's a nice way of saying go apologize now.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, he was pretty much just like, I understand you can't like control what your clients do either, but you do represent them. And I was like,
Fine.
Hate when you're right.
I'm sorry.
No, I get that. You do kind of lose some safety nets.
I just like cried a lot. Yeah, I cried a lot. And it was like a mad cry a lot. Like I wouldn't be sad. Like I'd be like, piece of shit.
Yeah, sometimes you just like, I mean, you just get so overwhelmed that you just can't do anything else but cry.
Literally.
I mean, I'm not much of a crier. Bury those feelings deep
I
down
wonder what
inside.
the babies are thinking
funny.
when we're feeding them and we're crying.
Right. Right.
Oh, you're one of us. That's what they're thinking.
Oh, you're one of us.
You're one of us. No wonder I feel comfortable with you.
That's funny. That is funny. No, it's all good. Well, they've all made it so far, so good job, moms.
So far, so good.
yes.
Would you do anything different, like from your first to your second, or third for you now?
Yeah, I think I did do things differently. I think I was much more, I had so much more anxiety with the first. Again, like just not knowing. But by the time Benson came around, I just like trusted my body more and like was a lot more patient with the process and with my body.
Gave yourself some grace.
Yeah, to really take the time to figure it out. Whereas with the first, I was, just put a lot of pressure on myself. And, I was much happier the third time around. So, yeah, that'd be my advice.
Yeah, I've had a great experience with breastfeeding. I think as long as I can do that, I will do it the same way. But I think I've made the adjustments that I need to, like we talked about, just incorporating like supplemental stuff that can help us and help us keep our sanity. But like physically, I've enjoyed the process, and I do feel like my kids have great immune systems. So
That and throwing some puppies. You got them. Yeah. Get them done.
Yeah.
I would change so much, but I'm not confident on what I would change sitting here talking. I know, like, looking back that I'm like, oh my gosh, I would do things so differently. But I think if and when I get there, I'll cross that bridge and definitely be more intentional about, like, making a game plan.
Makes sense. So what you've got, when is baby number 2 due?
Baby number 2 is due in October.
Oh, that's sooner than I thought.
I know. I'm like 20 weeks pregnant now. So
Halfway there.
I know. Woo-hoo.
Yeah, you and your dog.
I know. And I was like, oh my
No
God, I'm going to
wine
be
for
pregnant
you.
during the heat of the summer. Like, oh, I was not
Oh my
excited
God, I had
about
both
that.
my babies in August. I did not want to hear it.
Yeah, I know. Well, luckily with Mac, like I was like, I think I timed it like great. Not that you can time it, but I was like, that worked out really well because I had him in May. So by the time like the heat and everything was there, and I just got to wear like cozy sweaters all during pregnancy, it was so nice. But now I'm like, I'm going to be in the pool just like a beluga whale, just out there, just floating around. But baby number 2 is going to be different feeding than baby number 1 so far. I'm going to do it with Mac, my first son. What I did is I self-expressed colostrum prior to going to the hospital. So I had colostrum going into like the birth because again, formula shortage was like terrifying to me. And then I was like, what if my body just doesn't produce milk and then I have to give him formula and then I can't find any and I have to go meet Uncle Joe in a van down by the river to get it. And so I did the colostrum. I'll probably do that again with baby number 2 because it just helped ease any like anxieties I had about feeding and waiting for milk to come in. And then I think we're just going to go straight to the formula after that. And I'm excited. It's going to be so nice. It's like the greener
boots back.
pastures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all good.
Oh, yeah.
All good. All right. Good deal. Well, thanks for your time today, guys. We'll see everybody. We'll see everybody next time.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.